Good evening, everyone. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meetings Act was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 13, 2022. The notice was on that date posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader and the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the town of Westfield. Mrs. Loshing, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Brindle?
Here.
Councilmembers Habgood, Parmalee? Here. LaGrippo? Katz?
Here.
Mackey? Here. Contract? Here. Daria?
Here.
Ruth?
Here. And I want to apologize for the lack of AC. It's out today, so we'll sweat through this. But please rise for the invocation, which will be given by Councilman Parmalee.
We gather here today intent on doing good work. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task. May our efforts be filled with insight, guided by understanding and wisdom. We seek to serve with respect for all. May our personal beliefs give us strength to act honestly and with integrity in all matters before us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jim, any comments this evening?
No, not tonight, Mayor. There'll be other comments later on. Coach, should we wait?
Wait a few minutes? No?
We should, because they were trickling in. Give it a few. That's your remarks.
Come on up.
All right.
I have it in there.
Oh, you got it right there. Thank you. Hello, Coach. You guys. We are proud and thrilled to once again be offering a proclamation to a state championship team at Westfield High School. And so this year it is the 2022-23 Boys Winter Track and Field. And we have Coach Tefelsky here, and I won't embarrass Jimmy Gilday. His parents are here. So let me read this proclamation into the record. Whereas on February 18th, 2023, the Westfield High School Blue Devils boys winter track and field team won their second consecutive NJSIA Group 4 Indoor Championship. And whereas on their way to winning the state group championship, the team also won their second straight Union County and sectional championship. And whereas the team sent several members to the New Balance National Track and Field Meet to compete in both individual and relay events, and had many members placed in the top 10 in track and field events at the Meet of Champions. And whereas, under the leadership of head coach Chris Tefelsky, assistant coaches Eric Anderson and Sam Heyman, and volunteer coaches Ricardo Johnson and John Preston, the team represented their school and their hometown with the highest standards of athleticism, integrity, and sportsmanship. And whereas, all of the members of the team, seniors Jonathan Bufara, Eamon Collins, Daniel Cortese, Emmanuel Gallinillo, Mason Marino, Liam Murillo, Owen Paul, Noah Perez, Joe Piero, Jonathan Scalia, Leo Schwartz, juniors Jimmy Gilday, Avery Keith, Eamon Mason, Tage Mehta, and sophomore Ryan Daly are deserving of recognition for their individual contributions to the success of the team. And whereas the Mayor and Town Council of the Town of Westfield wish to commend the coaches and the members of the Westfield High School Blue Devils boys winter track and field team for their sportsmanship and many successes during the 22-23 season. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Shelley Brindle, on behalf of the Town Council and the citizens of the Town of Westfield, do hereby congratulate the 2022-23 Westfield High School Blue Devils boys winter track and field team on their successful season, capped by capturing the Group 4 State Championship title, and applaud them for their exceptional dedication to the sport and to sportsmanship. Congratulations, Coach. Thank you.
A lot of the talk that went into the beginning of this winter season was, after winning the Group C championship last year, was can you guys do it again? And it's one of those things where it's just like, all right, slow down. Like that's expectations, that's pressure. We don't need that. Let's just do our thing and let's just keep focusing on getting better. And that's what the kids did. And but I think this time around, what made it more special was that we graduated a lot of really high-powered kids. We suffered a number of injuries from fall sports and things. That we had a number of high-powered kids who didn't get an opportunity to compete in the winter at all because they were still getting well from the fall. And despite all that, the kids knew what they wanted to accomplish. And track and field attracts a lot of different types of athletes. You've got a lot of diverse events that attract a lot of different kids all under one roof, which is one of the great things about it. And this year, I think the different event areas, throws, jumps, hurdles, sprints, distance runners, they were much more unified this year in their purpose and their focus and their commitment to one another. Last year, the ball just started rolling, and it was, hey, we did that, can we do this? Hey, we did this, can we do this? And this year it was like, yes, we can do this, let's go, and let's do it together. And I think that was really special, and it spilled over into our spring season tremendously well. We were sectional championships this spring for the first time in 45 years, and I think that's a direct result of what we were able to accomplish in the winter. And again, I think it was the focus and the commitment of the kids and the coaches that made that happen. So thank you so much for taking the time to recognize us. We've got a tremendously supportive community, parents, school and district administration, community groups that make this happen. So thank you.
Johnny's really up. Come up here. It's been a big week for Johnny. He became an Eagle Scout the other night too. So congrats, Johnny. Yes. I had the pleasure of speaking at Johnny's Eagle Scout ceremony, so congratulations. And I also want to acknowledge Athletic Director Sandy Mammers, who's been an amazing partner and really incredible. So thank you. So, all right. Thank you all. Best of luck for the rest of the school year. Absolutely. Okay, well that was fun. Sandy Mammers making too many trips here. I have to keep it up. Congratulations. So I want to thank everybody for being here this evening, both in person and online. I do want to apologize for the air conditioning. Will be fixed tomorrow. Just to remind everybody, public comment is accepted only in person, and we're live streaming for viewing only. I do want to thank everybody who joined us earlier this evening for our Pride celebration, which we scheduled from last week due to the air quality issues that were pretty significant. This celebration is in its 5th year, and it's one that's been of great importance to this administration, and really proud of our ongoing commitment to creating a culture of inclusion and acceptance in our community. And you can see by the crowds that gather every year and get significantly greater how important this tradition has become. We also want to acknowledge it's an area where our work is never finished, and it was really great to see the turnout from residents from all ages. I do want to congratulate all the participants and volunteers in Sunday's tour to Westfield. It was a great, hats off to Council Liaison Katz and really the resident volunteer Liz Chaco, who's the Recreation Commissioner, who really led the whole effort. It was really fun to see so many people out. I got to get on my bike for the first time in a long time, and a really great partnership with the Police Department, Green Team, Bicycle Advisory Board, the DWC, and the Brakes Commission, and it was hundreds of people out there and a really great community event. And I also want to, speaking of downtown, since we last met, we've had even more businesses open their doors in Westfield. We welcome Wonder's first storefront outside of Manhattan Bagel at the former CVS location on South Avenue, as well as Rumble Boxing in the former Victoria's secret space on East Broad. I think Councilman Root has done a few little sessions over there. We also, I think we mentioned it last time, House of Wine and Liquor has opened on North Avenue. It's fantastic if you haven't been there. And we also learned that Some Ramen is going to be opening the Kilwin space on Quimby Street, or on Elm Street across from Quimby. So great new additions to downtown Westfield. And I mentioned this in an earlier session, but I did want to bring the public's attention to a lobbying effort that me and hundreds of other mayors across the state are doing. 400 fellow New Jersey mayors signed a joint letter to Governor Murphy and the state legislature on behalf of the New Jersey League of Municipalities, the Conference of Mayors, and the Urban Mayors Association, calling on the full restoration of energy tax receipts to municipalities, which would be transformative in our ability to provide tax relief. And the reason I want to bring it to your attention is because oftentimes there's these policies that really go unnoticed in Trenton, but can have major and significant impacts on what we try to do in terms of benefiting our taxpayers. And just in terms of background, decades ago, 20 years ago, gas and utility, well, I should say today, gas and electric utility companies pay taxes for the use of public land and the public right-of-way for their equipment. Originally, the host municipalities collected those taxes. They came directly to us. The state made itself the collection agent for these taxes back in 1991, promising to return the proceeds to municipalities for property tax relief. Well, we know how that goes. Just as they collect property taxes for the benefit of schools, such as we collect properties for the benefit of school districts, counties, and other entities, the state is supposed to collect energy taxes for the benefit of municipal governments. So for years, though, states have diverted the funding from these energy taxes to plug holes in the state budget and to fund state programs at our expense. For over a decade, there's been about $350 million diverted from municipal governments for state budget purposes. In Westfield, we have been deprived of $47 million in energy tax receipts since the state began collecting them in 2001. So restoration of this funding would allow us to provide significant property tax release to our residents. So last year, the state budget included an additional $75 million in this relief as the first step towards restoration, but really it was a pittance. When it filtered down to Westfield, it meant $20,000 for us. Next year's proposed budget is zero. So with the nearly $10 billion budget surplus, the mayors across the state believe that now is the time to restore the millions in property tax relief that have been annually diverted to meet state needs. So mayors who've signed this letter from both political parties, urban, suburban, and rural municipalities, are very united in calling on the state legislature to build upon its commitment last year and amend the proposed budget to include funding, restoring that funding. So Senator John Bramnick is on board in support of that, and it's our view that local elected officials are in the best position to decide the best use of these resources, which were always intended to fund local programs and services. So I just wanted you to be aware of it. It's an important initiative during this budget negotiation and one that we're all fighting for. A few other things, you may have noticed, we've alerted folks that our contractor began surface repairs at Mindoaskin Playground. I just want to let everybody know that the area is closed to the public through June the 15th as the work is completed. The work, they've gotten some patch holes in that in the playground because it's been so well used, but there's larger swatches that need additional repair, so the Recreation Department is contracted with a new company for a different, larger scale treatment. Just want to thank you, the residents who have reported this on Westfield Connect. I want to thank our Recreation Department for being so responsive, and just know that that will be repaired by the end of this week. And I do want to remind everybody that there was also a fence approved by this council at our last meeting, and the installation of that fence at Mindoaskin is scheduled for June 21st, and we don't anticipate that it will require any closure of the playground, but it will take several days to install. As many of you are aware, just shifting gears a little bit, there has been an uptick in criminal activity over the last few weeks. I know Chief Badalora has sent out several notifications alerting people once again about burglarizations, homes that have been burglarized and stolen cars, and of several businesses that have burglarized as well. These are not unique to Westfield. They are actually indicative of a statewide problem. They are indeed very unsettling, and without question, everyone deserves to feel safe in their homes, and I think it's the home burglaries that have understandably caused the most alarm. So yesterday, Chief Badalora and Jim Gilday and I met with several residents who live near the home on Minnesink Way that did experience a forced entry on early Friday morning. We had a very productive conversation about what each of us can do on the home safety and legislative fronts to improve the situation over the short and long term. There are no quick fixes to a problem. It's much bigger than our municipal borders. I remain committed to working with a coalition of bipartisan mayors throughout the state to advocate for amendments to existing bail reform that empowers our police and prosecutors to criminally charge and hold repeat offenders. I have asked Chief Badalora, there he's back there, just to address the public tonight with some details of these recent events and, more importantly, what our incredible professional men and women of the department are doing to combat the issue and to ensure the safety of our residents. So, Chief Badalora.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I'd like to take this opportunity tonight to provide the community with some information about recent criminal activity that has occurred in Westfield and to address some of your concerns. On Friday, June 2nd, at approximately 4:27 a.m., the Westfield Police Department was alerted to a burglary in progress at Adler's, a jewelry store located on the 200 block of West North Avenue. A passerby reported that while traveling east on the 200 block, she encountered two dark sport utility vehicles blocking the roadway and her route of travel. After sounding her horn, she then observed multiple suspects exit the store and flee in the waiting vehicles at a very high rate of speed. Responding officers subsequently determined that entry into the premises was forcibly gained via the front door, and the entire interior of the store had been ransacked. It is believed this burglary was one of 5 such jewelry store burglaries committed in central and northern New Jersey on the same night by the same criminal crew. On Friday, June 9th, at approximately 2:50 a.m., the Westfield Police Department was alerted to a burglary in progress at a residence located on the 1100 block of Minnesink Way. The resident reported that he was awakened by the activation of the burglar alarm and observed 2 persons on a surveillance camera in his kitchen. They were searching through cabinets. He yelled at them, at which time they exited through a window and fled in a vehicle waiting out front. Responding officers subsequently determined that entry into the residence was forcibly gained via a locked window that was pried open. It is believed the suspects were looking for key fobs to steal 1 or more of the residents' high-end vehicles. On Sunday, June 11th, at approximately 3:45 a.m., the Westfield Police Department was alerted to an attempted burglary on the 600 block of Arsley Drive. The resident stated he and his family were awakened by the activation of the burglar alarm and subsequently observed a basement window wide open. Although he did not see anyone, it is believed the suspects entered the residence, likely to look for key fobs to steal 1 or more of the residents' high-end vehicles parked in the driveway. The vehicles involved in the Adler's burglary have been recovered. Both were identified as stolen. Approximately $100,000 in proceeds from the jewelry store burglaries and thefts were recovered in one of them. The other was apparently set on fire. There was nothing left of it but a burnt-out shell. The vehicle involved in the Minnesink Way burglary has also been recovered, and it was identified as stolen as well. Last weekend, officers located 2 stolen vehicles in residential Westfield neighborhoods, one during the mid-morning hours on Sunday, June 3rd, and the other during the early morning hours on Sunday, June 4th. Officers attempted to stop both, but their drivers refused to do so, and high-speed pursuits ensued. Both pursuits were eventually terminated by the officers involved because of the great danger presented by them. The occupants of these stolen vehicles were here in Westfield for one sole reason: to commit crime. One was involved in an early morning burglary to a residence on Dixon Drive, where suspects sought to steal a vehicle in the garage. An officer located it, seemingly blocking the road, protecting those who were burglarizing the residence from police approach. It was subsequently chased out of town. The other was chased out of town as well, before its occupants could find a vehicle to steal. There was another high-speed pursuit on a recent Friday evening on Central Avenue, in which the stolen vehicle was involved in a crash and lost a tire. But even after losing its tire, it was still being driven at speeds in excess of 70+ miles per hour, a pursuit deemed far too dangerous to continue, and it was allowed to flee. This criminal activity is occurring all over the immediate area. This last Sunday morning, June 11th, vehicles were stolen during the early morning hours from locations in Garwood and Scotch Plains. Additionally, during the early morning hours of June 12th, jewelry stores were burglarized in Scotch Plains and Union. While I cannot comment further on any of these recent burglaries, so as not to compromise ongoing criminal investigations, I want you to know that the officers are working hard to combat this crime, and the Westfield Police Department is certainly well-equipped, well-trained, and well-prepared to do so. Its operating budget, as well as its sworn officer strength, is higher now than any point in its history, and that includes more officers assigned to patrol duties than ever before. Any intimation that the Westfield Police Department is not properly funded, understaffed, and/or it is not deploying its officers properly is patently false. Know that your police have increased patrols and are conducting targeted enforcement activities. But also know that we live in a free society, and your police will not engage in any enforcement activities that violate one's constitutional rights, like restricting one's right to freely travel on any of our streets and roads. The Westfield Police Department is a professional law enforcement organization, and no officer shall ever be permitted to target any person based on his or her race, ethnicity, nationality, religion, disability, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, or any other protected characteristic. We are focusing our efforts in the following ways. The Westfield Police Department continues to supplement normal patrols with additional officers, detectives, and supervisors hired on overtime to focus on specific criminal activity, like vehicle theft, as well as quality of life issues in our downtown area at night. These officers work in both plain clothes and uniform, both unmarked and marked vehicles, and some are even assigned to foot patrols. To help combat the ongoing vehicle theft problem, the Westfield Police Department has installed 15 flock safety license plate recognition, or LPR, cameras at various entrance and exit points to Westfield. These LPR cameras are motion activated. They take still photographs that focus solely on the backs of vehicles as they drive by, with particular attention paid towards license plates. The LPR's cameras provide real-time alerts if a stolen vehicle passes by. They also provide real-time alerts for vehicles displaying stolen license plates, those associated with known wanted persons, and more. The LPR cameras are always actively monitored via computer by personnel assigned to the 911 Police Fire EMS Communications Center, and patrol units are immediately notified of real-time hot list alerts. In the case of the Menacing Way incident, although the perpetrators arrived and was later confirmed to be a stolen vehicle, it had not yet been reported as stolen when its license plate was, in fact, captured by one of our LPR cameras. There is no doubt these LPR cameras have provided us with necessary alerts to thwart countless other vehicle thefts and attempted vehicle thefts. In 2022, there were 15 stolen vehicles in Westfield, a 46% reduction from the previous year when there were 28. This substantial reduction in vehicle theft is attributed in large part to the LPR cameras. However, in 2022, there were also 13 vehicle pursuits, an 85% increase from the previous year when there were just 7. This substantial increase is also attributed in large part to the LPR cameras. 11 of those vehicle pursuits were initiated for stolen vehicles, and 6 of them were the direct result of receipt of real-time hot list alerts. A Westfield police officer remains assigned full-time to the New Jersey State Police Auto Theft Task Force, thus allowing us to maintain an overarching emphasis on subsequent investigations rather than initial vehicle pursuits, which can often present substantial safety issues to identify and apprehend fleeing criminals. As I've communicated time and time again, the best thing you can do to help prevent crime is to ensure your vehicles and homes are always locked. This to make our neighborhoods less desirable targets. Unfortunately, crime can and does still occur, even when our residents do everything we ask of them. We've seen that over the many decades here in Westfield. The unfortunate reality is that today's criminals have become far more brazen and fearless, and arrests seem to have no deterrent effect. Most identified suspects are part of vehicle theft crews with extensive and often violent criminal histories. Their recidivist behavior has been well documented. They are targeting affluent suburban neighborhoods in towns like Westfield, throughout the state, and simultaneously committing burglaries. Let's all look out for one another. You know your neighborhoods better than anyone. If something doesn't look or seem right, a light sensor, a barking dog during the overnight hours, whatever it might be, do not hesitate to call 911. Most importantly, it's time to start urging those elected officials who make the laws, your state legislators, to pass common sense laws, ones that force our criminal justice system to hold these persons, police arrest, accountable for their crimes. Without accountability and consequence, there will never be a deterrent. And until there is a deterrent, we are not likely to see change. There needs to be a much greater solution to our crime problems than the police just trying to push it out and to make it someone else's problem to deal with. When we begin to question our safety in a town like Westfield, then we have a right to be angry and scared and to demand action. So please do so, but demand that action from those who can effectuate change. Until that necessary change occurs, I assure you the Westfield Police Department stands as ready as ever. We will continue to work as hard as ever to ensure your safety and the security of your property. We have some of the finest men and women in all of law enforcement here, ones who time and time again have risen to the challenge and proven themselves to be worthy of your trust and confidence. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do just, I mean, I don't really know what I can add to what the chief already said extensively. I think all of us here have seen firsthand the work of the department, professionally accredited in both the office patrol duty as well as dispatch, one of the few in the state that bear that distinction. You know, as he mentioned, they have the resources they need. And it's something, this is a statewide problem, and I'm in a consortium with very many suburban mayors who are all working with our state legislators to see how this can be addressed. So there'll be more on that as to see what we can do. And but anyway, I think what he said is best. Look out for each other. So I've talked to residents, and some are reluctant to call the police because they don't want to feel like they're bothering them. And if we talk to the chief and anybody else, they'll tell you, please bother us immediately. That's the best we can encourage our residents to do. But I want to thank you, Chief, for that statement and for all the work that you've done on our behalves. So with that, let's go on to tonight's agenda. Ms. Lashy, are there any advertised hearings? Did I skip something? Oh, sorry, I forgot that. I was on the next thing. I forgot. I would like to propose the appointment of Jeff Kirschenbaum to the Downtown Westfield Corporation to fill an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2025. May I have a motion to accept this appointment? So moved by Councilman Mackey. A second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Root. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? This motion is carried. I want to thank Jeff Kirschenbaum for accepting that seat. Okay, now, Ms. Losh, are there any advertised hearings?
Yes, Mayor, we have 2 advertised hearings tonight, starting with General Ordinance Number 2023-23, an ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance Number 2023-23, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed.
Next is General Ordinance Number 2023-24, an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Police of the Code of the Town of Westfield to include the position of Police Chaplain. Anyone wishing to be heard on General Ordinance Number 2023-24, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed. Councilman, please move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2023-23.
Yes, I would like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2023-23 on second reading, an ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Parmalee?
Yes.
Katz?
Yes.
Mackey? Contract? Yes. Dardia?
Yes.
Root?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion has carried. Councilman Parmalee.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2023-24 on second reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 18, Police of the Code of the Town of Westfield to include the position of Police Chaplain.
May I have a second? I'm sorry, I'm looking at this. I'm looking. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion has carried.
Got a roll call.
Oh, roll call, sorry. It's missing from this agenda. No problem. Roll call.
Councilmembers Parmalee?
Yes.
Katz?
Yes.
Mackey? Contract? Yes. Dardia?
Yes.
Root?
Yes.
Mayor Brindle?
Yes, this motion has carried. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Town Council Conference and regular meetings of May 23rd, 2023? So moved by Councilman Contract, second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? This motion is carried. Ms. Loshi, do we have any petitions or communications?
Yes, Mayor, we received a petition that was filed on June 12th regarding Special Ordinance Number 2023-03.
As you all may have heard, yesterday the town clerk received a petition submitted by residents regarding the bond ordinance for the Edison Fields project. I would like to thank the participants for their efforts and engagement, and as we stated, I think when that ordinance was passed, but I am going to have Town Attorney Dom Jardim speak about the legal process and the next steps related to that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor just indicated, the Town Clerk received a petition this past Monday, June 12th. The Mayor's just asked me to give a little bit of overview of the process that's required under state law. The petition that was received seeks a referendum to be placed on the ballot regarding the Special Ordinance 2023-03, which was a bond ordinance adopted by this Mayor and Council on May 23rd, 2023, related to the design and construction of the Edison School multipurpose fields project. So that was, as I said, adopted on May 23rd. Bond ordinances take effect 20 days after publication, and publication in that instance was on the 25th of May. And so it otherwise would become operative and take effect on June 13th. However, as indicated, we did receive a protest petition on June 12th. I'm working with the town clerk's office in order to verify whether a sufficient number of valid signatures were submitted with the petition. The clerk is obligated by law to take this step to validate the signatures and to certify that the petition qualifies for placement on the ballot. We have, or the clerk has, 10 days or until June 22nd to verify and certify those signatures. And because the petition circulators have indicated that they've collected 2,822 signatures. You can imagine that the clerk has a lot of work to do in a short amount of time, which of course she will do with aplomb. If it's determined there are sufficient number of valid signatures submitted, the next step is that the mayor and council would direct the town clerk to schedule the referendum question either in a special election held for that purpose or at the next general election, which of course is November 7th, 2023. So more to come as we go through the process and as we get closer to where the clerk, who I understand has been working, I think 3 people in the office reviewing the signatures. And again, that's a required step by law, but more to come as we get towards the June 22nd certification date.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Anyone may come up to the microphone and speak to the council on any subject on which we have jurisdiction. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Jean Lemberg, 528 Grove Street. I have a question regarding the Minnewaska Park Playground replacement. It sounds like you're replacing it with more of the same, and I urge you to look for something more sustainable. The playground surface that's there is a variation of what's at Kaler Field, the poured-in-place track material. You may remember, like about 1.5 years ago, I brought this jar of nurdles or pre-production plastic pellets to show you the surface that's at Minnewaska Park, the poured-in-place track material that's at Kaler Stadium, as well as all plastic grass, AKA artificial turf athletic fields, begin as this, pre-production plastic pellets. They are derived from fossil fuels, which are coal, oil, and gas. Most often, these come from natural gas. It's due to an abundance of fracking that's done in the United States. So once again, the materials that you are putting down on our shared planet are not good for the earth, and I just urge you to do better. And I recognize that the surface that's at Minnewaska Park is there as part of it being an accessible playground, but there are other materials available that are both accessible and good for the environment. Westfield prides itself on being a green community. You are all happy to receive Sustainable Jersey awards. You need to live up to that. Thank you.
Stephen Goodman, 322 Arenda Circle. It is my belief there has not, nor has there been enough discussion or interplay regarding important projects around Westfield. I'm not talking about street corners, stop signs, things like that. I'm talking about turf fields. I'm talking about Westfield 1 and other projects that we are progressing through. We need a better input from the taxpayers in the decision process before your decision is actually made. And my feeling is this has not been done. We cannot hide behind a veil of what you call a representative democracy. There hasn't been that important conversation. We only get to talk at each other and not with each other. This is a fault that has to be changed by having additional public meetings between the town council members, mayor, and the townspeople, so we can air disagreements, facts, feelings, and disparities. We should plan these important and costly projects together, not solely alone, especially when our tax dollars, our health, and our safety and security is at stake. Streetworks HBC has applied for and has received the final available liquor license in Westfield. That application was actually placed early 2020 during the worst part of the pandemic. This was before the consummation of the redevelopment plan with Streetworks was approved. It seems to me quite disingenuous to me to allow a last final license to be received by a company whose redevelopment plan was still under scrutiny. We could have sold that license to another well-deserved business in the downtown area. Thank you.
Craig Lemberg, 528 Grove Street. I received an email from the town of Westfield on May 24th announcing the passing of the ordinance to issue $11.8 million in bonds to support the Edison Field project. I was here at the meeting the night before, but still failed to believe what I read. First was the topic of stormwater management, which states in part that the project will, quote, significantly improve stormwater runoff for this neighborhood that sees flooding from the Robinson's branch of the Raritan River. Improvements that would not be possible by maintaining the existing grass fields. That statement is blatantly false on two fronts. First, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, increasing organic matter in soil by just 1% will retain an additional 20,000 gallons of water per acre. That's about 115,000 gallons on the nearly 6 acres that's proposed for the project at Edison. That is the equivalent of 20 liquid tank trucks like the kind that carry bulk milk. You can afford an awful lot of organic matter for $11.8 million. Second, as I said at the meeting on the 23rd, drainage systems and retention basins work the same, whether they are beneath a natural grass field or a fake plastic one. So why claim that improvement in stormwater management would not be possible by maintaining existing grass fields when that is obviously not the case? Then there are the financing details where the email states in part, the incoming pilot revenues anticipated from the Westfield Crossing project, parentheses, expected to yield $20 million over the 30-year developer agreement, end parentheses, which will fund the majority of the projected cost, thereby mitigating the burdens to taxpayers. The fact is that the projected revenue from Westfield Crossing, and it's only projected, is back-end loaded. The first 15 years are projected to deliver less than $8 million, according to General Ordinance 2216. Beyond the initial installation cost of $11.8 million, the interest on the bonds, and at least one carpet replacement, the project will cost more like $18 million in the first 15 years. So no, the Westfield Crossing pilot will not fund the majority of the cost of the project. About $10 million will fall to taxpayers. What's more, those pilot funds are not hardwired to the Edison Field project. They could be used for any improvements in Westfield. And as you know, I don't consider destroying 6 acres of a natural space and replacing it with toxic plastic grass an improvement. For nearly 2 years, we residents have been told to trust the process. What we got in return has been a dysfunctional advisory council that met 3 times in 15 months instead of monthly as advertised, a capacity study that used biased assumptions and did not include a sensitivity analysis, a parking study with crazy assumptions like spectators will come to events 4 to a car. And now the process ends with this email that might sound good until you pull back the curtain and see what's actually inside. Claims about stormwater management that aren't true, and statements about how the project will be funded that don't stand up to scrutiny. We fundamentally disagree about how to improve our athletic facilities in town. That could not be more clear after the last 2 years. But I would have thought that in local politics, we could at least agree on basic facts. Thank you for your attention.
Good evening, Tony Laporta, 409 North Chestnut Street in Westfield. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the group of people that went around knocking on doors, getting signatures that we heard about, town attorney today. About 300 people got over 2,800 signatures. And that's outstanding. That's outstanding. There's certainly a groundswell against the actions that this mayor and this council are taking in town. It's difficult for me to believe, because I sat up there, it's difficult for me to believe that you don't hear it. That, you know, there's an old expression, if everyone is thinking alike, someone is not thinking. When was the last time the council in unison voted against something the mayor wanted? Or even 4 people voted against it? You all rubber stamp what the mayor wants. We all see it. 300 people take their time to knock on doors, and over 2,800 people sign it. And they did this in a very short time period. I want to also congratulate Westfield Advocates for Responsible Development. Had a very successful fundraiser recently to fund the lawsuit that we have against the town. Again, groundswell of people. So what I want to say, I know I'm not going to change your minds, but I want you to know for sure, for certain, without any hesitation, that there are so many people that are against what you're doing. And I want to talk to Councilman Contract. You voted against the turf fields when it was $8.5 million. And that was good. I know you got stripped of everything. The mayor stripped you of all your powers when the reorganization happened. Sure you did, Mayor. Come on. He wasn't the chairman of anything in the reorganization. And then you voted for the same project when it's close to $12 million. This is outrageous. You vote against it when it's lower. You vote for it when it's more. That's a shameful act, Councilman. A totally shameful act. I am shocked that this happens here in Westfield. And so you smile and you say, oh, well, we're going to go on. No, people understand what's going on, and there is a groundswell. And I just wanted to let you know that, if you didn't know it already. And again, I want to congratulate the anti-turf people for what they did. Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening, Greg Casco, 434 Everson Place. I was at the meeting when Councilman Contract explained why he was voting yes for the project at Edison, after being against it on numerous occasions. And I give him credit because he has a seat at the table to represent me in my ward, Ward 3, and others in the ward that may be for or against it. If you go back before this administration, before 2017, we didn't get explanations from council people. Councilman Laporta is very well informed about how these council meetings take place. And the mayor before this mayor would sit there, and when someone tried to explain themselves, he would shut them down. There was no discussion. The transparency that occurs here at town council meetings is enlightening, to say the least. Whether you agree with the Fields, whether you disagree, whether you agree with One Westfield Place or disagree, we've gotten more information from this town council via website, via meetings, via one-on-one interaction with our council people through emails. I know I have. The main reason why I wanted to come here tonight to speak, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Chief Badaloro or the police department. He did a very detailed and articulate job up here tonight, explaining what's going on. But recently on social media, a Ward 1 council candidate tried to drive a wedge between this town council and its police department. And that bothers me. Because this police department is well-funded. The person's trying to say that why are we spending $11 million on a park project when we have this crime problem? They're two separate issues. The police department's not hurting for resources. I know that. Having grown up in this town in 1975, my parents' house was robbed on Effingham Place. Guy broke into the sunroom porch. Luckily, our neighbor was on her sunroom, saw it, called the cops. Cops showed up, they arrested the guy when he came out. But back then, they were stealing jewelry. My dad's silver dollar, Morgan dollar coin collection, which they found on the guy. Silverware. We still have burglaries, and they will continue, but now the choice is we want the high-end cars. And people are heeding the chief's warning by locking their car doors and leaving their key fobs in their house. So the criminals have to adjust. What do? They now break into homes. Home burglaries have happened for the last several decades. I was watching Channel 7 News last night, and they had a state police sergeant come on. And he said there were 400 less car thefts in January in the state of New Jersey. I think the tally was just under 2,000. We're down to 1,600. He said because people are listening. They're locking their car doors. They're not leaving their key fobs in their cars. But this council candidate suggests we place a car 24/7 up at Lawrence and Route 22. Well, if I'm a criminal and I see a car there, I'm going to come in through Brightwood Avenue, or I'm going to come in through Central, or Lamberts Mill Road, or Springfield Ave. We don't have the manpower to man every artery into town. But we do have the manpower, and we do have the assets, and we do have a competent police chief with a competent police department that knows what to do. And he's not going to advertise what exactly his assets are and what they're doing. Rest assured, we know that they're out there. But this person seems to think that if he becomes a town councilman, he knows better than a police chief who finished #1 in his police academy class, has driven this department to accreditation, which a previous chief 10 years ago tried to do and gave up on it. You know, I love this town. I've lived here now, I'm going on 52 years. Hopefully my kids will decide to live here someday. We live in a great town. We're represented by competent people, from this town council to the police chief, the fire chief. I am ecstatic that you have 2 Westfield graduates representing law enforcement and public safety, fire safety in town. That's outstanding, extraordinary. Thank you for all you do. Continue the good job and keep up the good work.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Mike Domagala. I'm running for councilman in Ward 3. I live at 961 Boulevard. Thank you for your time. Just a quick congratulations to the track and field team. I feel a lot of, I guess, honor in that as well, because I also belong to a state champ team, so that was awesome. And as well, I'm an Eagle Scout. There was also a female Eagle Scout that recently received the award. She had a drop box for American flags, and I think that is absolutely awesome as well. What brings me here tonight is a question that came across from one of the constituents in the ward which I live and I'll be campaigning for. The question came about as to whether or not the council or the mayor have considered any potential compromises on the project, regardless of any of litigation that's going on. Was there any thought to potentially downsizing anything on South Ave, rearranging, changing anything? And it's strictly a question, and I'm not looking to pin somebody down on something in particular, but there was discussion of, at any point, not to go ahead and change the vote necessarily, but to go ahead and consider the size of what was being built. So that's my question for this evening, and I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Hi, Liz Mulholland, 1029 Harding Street. Thank you for all you do. I just had a few comments to make and some questions. First, I wanted to congratulate the track field, the track and field for their accomplishments. I know that Westfield is very high ranked in sports year after year, and I'm very proud of this council for supporting the sports and actually being proactive in providing the spaces that they need. So I just wanted to let you know this is one person who appreciates what you've been doing. Another thing I have is really questions for the chief. I guess, though he's answered some of it. Somebody on Facebook, I think it was a Ward 1 council person, not council person, candidate, went on Facebook and stated the following. It was a little confusing to the public, so I would just like to ask if this can be clarified. He said that he's, quote, "I'm pretty sure we have more cops than ever. If I'm right, I think we have 62 cops. Issue is, most are inside and not on patrol. At least for the time being, I would put most of them on patrol. Police present can and will deter a lot of this." Now, it's my understanding that the overwhelming majority of our police officers are on patrol. I feel like this needs to be clarified because obviously it would be reckless to make such a statement. So I would like to just know that that is in fact true. It also goes on to say that while we have cameras and we know who the bad actors are, that basically it asserts that the police are just waiting till the crime happens instead of trying to be proactive about that. I just heard the chief speak about all of the things he's doing, and it kind of flies in the face of that. So again, just a little clarification there. He also says that there's not enough money in the budget for the police. He says that we have a laissez-faire attitude towards policing. And let's see what else. He said one very high up cop told him that the elected officials have our hands tied and wouldn't let them take care of crime. I'm not really sure what that exactly means. So I was just wondering if maybe the police chief could clarify these things, because obviously in a time of crisis like this, I think that facts and details need to be brought out. So I just wanted to thank you, and hopefully we can clarify those few little points there so the public is made aware of how much the police chief does and how much we can trust his judgment. So thank you very much.
Seeing no further comments, I close this portion of the meeting. And just to address some of the comments, Ms. Lemberg, heard your comments about Mendawaskan Playground. Our Administrator Jim Gilday is here, duly noted. Mr. Goodman, I think you have a fundamentally misunderstanding or misinformed about how liquor licenses work. It is not, the town is not involved in those sales. That is a private transaction between one to the other. So Streetworks at then Hudson Bay had procured a liquor license for the potential of the Lord and Taylor property, irrespective of 1 Westfield Place. To insinuate that the town could insert itself in the private marketplace is just, it just shows a lack of information and understanding about how liquor license laws work. So I wish, as you all know, I'm chair of the Liquor License Reform Task Force. I am fighting for a change in our archaic laws, but the town is not in a position to, like in anything, to disrupt private transactions between owners, and that's exactly what happened in this case. Mr. Lemberg, you are absolutely right on one thing we agree on, and that is we absolutely fundamentally disagree on how the solutions for fields should be addressed in town. I know you come here week after week and profess to be an expert on stormwater management and municipal finance and imply that we don't have the facts, but I prefer to listen to the true experts that do. And those would be the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers that absolutely 100% agreed that this project would improve stormwater management in the area. And also I defer to our municipal finance experts, including Jim Gilday, our CFO, Linda Hapgood, and those that advise us. So I stand by the facts and what we have communicated to the town and plan on continuing to set the record straight in that regard. Mr. Laporta, once again, I don't really have a response to your comments. I don't think you're really looking for a response. And thank you, Mr. Casco. I appreciate that, the comments about what we've done. And regarding, I think Mr. Delgado compromises to 1 Westfield Place. I'm not sure how long you've been paying attention to 1 Westfield Place, but clearly it was driven initially by a lot of public input, and there were compromises that were made, in particular on the south side, when we removed a floor from those office buildings, and when the apartments on North and Central were reduced from apartments to 16 townhouses, in addition to significant other things, but there were compromises that were made as a direct result of feedback. And Ms. Mulholland, regarding the police officer, I can answer some of those questions, but I might ask the police chief to come up and clarify a few of those. And I first want to reiterate, because I think this was helpful in talking to the residents that we met with yesterday, it's important to remember it is really scary, especially with home break-ins. That, I think, is the most frightening, and it changes the consequence and the implication of safety. But it's important to remember that Westfield remains one of the safest communities in the state. And that, it can feel scary in the moment, but you have to put it in the context. Even with what's going on, we remain one of the safest communities in the state, and that is in large part to the efforts of our police department. The one thing I did want to follow up on the comment, I want people to really understand the impact of these license plate readers that he referenced and how it works, and it is really epitomizes how policing should be done. And it is using data and technology to drive efficiencies. And what happens, and I've seen them share their cameras with me, when they get a hit on a stolen car, it immediately sends a picture to their phone of the stolen car with the license plate, and it tells them exactly where it is. So rather than our police officers randomly patrolling on the streets waiting for crime to appear, they're actually able to get a stolen car, get its location, and go right there to impede a crime before it happens. And so it's enabled them to employ resources and officers very efficiently, and the results are bearing out, as the chief indicated. And I think he already reiterated they've gotten the budget, many thanks to our finance committee and our public safety committee that have agreed to that. Acknowledged state legislation needs to evolve. And the only thing I'm not specific about is, Chief, if you can address how the patrol, when they mention like how many officers are inside versus are on patrol and so forth, because I don't know the exact stats on that.
Yes, I will say our authorized strength, I've made it very clear to our appropriate authority here what I feel is an appropriate number of police officers. And I have asked for permission from time to time to overhire in anticipation of retirements. So we've been as high this year as 63 officers, which is over the strength that I am seeking. But because of anticipated retirements, we are preparing, for those retirements by asking to overhire. I will tell you, we had 2 recent retirements, and just yesterday, both you and the town administrator signed off on 2 new appointments. So there has been no issue here in securing the necessary manpower for the police department. Patrol is the backbone of any police department. And I will tell you, we have more patrol officers than we've ever had at any point in my entire career here. More than 2/3, I would say, based on recent calculations, 70% of our patrol, of our authorized strength is assigned to the patrol function. There are inside functions, there are detectives, there are people that perform administrative functions. We have less detectives now than we've had in prior years. The bulk of our workforce is patrol and patrol supervisors, and they are out there doing this job. I will tell you, when something happens, and our administrative staff and our people that are assigned to inside jobs, when something happens and it's transmitted over the radio, everyone, including me and my 2 captains, are out the door. And so any insinuation that we have too many people assigned, it's patently false. 70% of this department is assigned to the patrol function. That is the backbone of any police department. And we are supplementing those resources by hiring detectives, patrol officers, and even patrol supervisors on overtime to put out more enhanced patrols to direct their efforts towards specific crime problems. So, that's just, a patently false statement.
Great, thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to move on to bills and claims. Councilman Parmalee.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $2,900,015 and $33.58.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? This motion is carried. Next on the agenda is reports of standing committees, beginning with the Finance Policy Committee. Councilman Parmalee.
Thanks again, Mayor. I have 7 resolutions, 6 of which I'd like to move in as a package. The first is a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund recreation department fees. Second is a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund a street opening cash bond. Third is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw warrant for unused parking permit fees. Fourth is a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw warrant for the Board of Adjustment escrow monies. Fifth is a resolution establishing a payment schedule for the Board of Education tax payments. And the sixth is a resolution establishing the estimated tax rate.
May I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Katz. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? This motion is carried.
And then next, I'd like to move a resolution to amend the capital budget.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Parmalee,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey, Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion has carried.
And then lastly, I'd like to move special ordinance number 2023-04 on first reading, a capital ordinance of the town of Westfield in the county of Union, New Jersey, authorizing the making of various public improvements and acquisitions in, by, and for the town, appropriating therefore the sum of $540,066, and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from the capital improvement fund of the town.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Parmalee,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey. Yes. Contract. Yes. Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. Next is public safety. Councilman Root.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move a resolution to appoint a medical director for the Westfield Police and Fire Department.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? This motion has carried.
Thank you, Mayor. I would also like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-25 on final reading, an ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Parmalee,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey. Yes. Contract. Yes. Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion has carried. Next is Code Review Committee. Councilman Parmalee.
Back to me. Thank you very much, Mayor. I have 3 resolutions this time that I'd like to move as a package. The first one's a resolution to to approve a children's amusement device license for McKinley School coming up this weekend. The second is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a lease agreement with Arena Realty Partners. And the third is a resolution authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement with the County of Union to modify the cooperative agreement.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion? I just would like to, the resolution with Arena Realty Partners is for the recommitment for a 2-year lease with the ice rink. I do acknowledge Ken Anderson back there for your partnership and what has become the Westfield Ice Rink, a big tradition in Westfield. So I want to thank you for being a great partner with the town, and we look forward to 2 more years with you guys. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? This motion has carried. May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Councilman Mackey, second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract, all in favor? Opposed? This motion is carried, and this meeting is adjourned.